Today I want to talk to you about the anatomy of a good ad. Now, it takes a lot to build out an ad campaign that functions well, and one of the things that people tend to phone in, so to speak, is the ad creation, which is sad because it's called Google Ads for a reason. So, you spend all this time, effort, and energy on defining your strategy, identifying your geography, figuring out your segmentation, figuring out your bid structure. And then when it comes to writing ads, people just kind of copy and paste junk from their website, and they're hamstringing their ad campaign from the outset. So what I'd like to do is go over some of the best practices that we recommend, and then also show you in real time what I think a good ad looks like. So here's what I did. I've got a search pulled up here, and I looked for Rent-A-Car 85260. And the reason I like this particular search is because it has a specific qualifier. And anytime anybody has anything location-based, that lets me know that that's high commercial intent. They're actually ready to buy. So I'm not necessarily just researching car rental prices. I'm actually ready to buy or actually ready to rent a car. And I think it's kind of cool that we have some different approaches here. So number one, I don't like these three ads. They're not taking advantage of all the space that is available to them for whatever reason. And this is actually up to Google more than to the ad builders, but they're not showing things like site link extensions, structure snippets, etc. That we do have a call out extension here, which is great. Actually, we like Priceline's ad though. So anytime you can use numbers in an ad, what you will see is it has a greater degree of efficacy for click-through. So using numbers like we've got $10.95 a day, 40% off rental cars, like that's a really nice way to just stop the searcher from sort of stop them in their tracks. I think that the Phoenix Rental Car Company here, I think they did a pretty good job here too. But notice the difference between, that's a really significant window, that 128 to 188. I just like that Priceline said, hey, we've got, $11 for a car rental. So the ad copy here is really good. When you're dealing with Google, we recommend running 3 types of ads for every single ad group. You want to run 2 expanded text ads and 1 responsive ad. The expanded text ads are going to have 3 titles. The third title is always optional. So you might not get that title in, which means you want to make sure that it's not an absolute necessary prerequisite to the story that you're trying to tell. So you get 3 titles and then 2 descriptions, and spend some time with your descriptions, making sure that you're building them up. This to me looks like a responsive ad, and the reason I'm saying that is because there's some repetition here, and I can't imagine that whoever would be writing this ad would build that repetition in themselves. And so responsive ads, you give Google a collection of titles, a collection of descriptions, and then Google compiles that themselves and decides on the ad that it thinks they're going to work the best. And so this is a responsive ad. What's interesting about responsive ads is they tend to be a little repetitive and nonsensical, as you can see here, and yet they work and generally work better than the text ads that you built yourself. I'm not sure if these are responsive or just normal text ads. But the other thing I wanted to call your attention to is the fact that, and it's not happening here, but sometimes you'll see the ads showing up in the maps, which is cool because you can feed in a layer of redundancy. You need to install Google My Business, integrate that with your Google Ads campaign. But if you can do that, you might show up 3 times on the same page. You show up in the 4-pack, you show up on the maps, and then potentially show up organically. So let's go take a look at another one of my favorites. Let's do cheap. So cheap airline tickets. Yeah. Now we're dealing a little bit more with snippets, which is great. These types of callouts I think are really important. They have the site link extensions. So the more you can take advantage of extensions, the better. Another thing that Cheapo Air here is doing really well is they're capitalizing the first letter in every word. And this helps with the click-through rate. So again, small little, pro tips, but that's an important thing for you to do inside of your ads. The call extensions, even though having a phone number available can help increase the amount of calls you're getting, I don't always like them because sometimes you're dealing with a lower quality prospect. So I test call extensions and, just try to see what's going to work inside of each individual campaign. Sometimes they're great. For emergency plumber, for instance, or septic repair, call extension is you have to have it. But then for for my agency, for instance, the call extensions, they tend to be people that are just like, hey, what do you cost? And all they do is focus on price, not necessarily value. So be careful with call extensions. This is an interesting sort of approach that they have here in this ad copy. Some of the special characters that they're adding don't always go through. I'm actually a little surprised that they were able to get away with this. But there's something about it that looks spammy to me. I like preferably with Cheapo Air. So let's look at something else. I'm going to say daycare near Let's see if we can't get some local campaigns. There we go. So now I don't have the 4-pack, which means this isn't as competitive, and that might just be where I am based. That might also be the fact that I'm constantly searching. I have a community for Montessori schools, and so Google might just say, "You're not going to buy, dude. I don't trust you." But here we are with our best practice, capitalizing the first letter in each word. They're using site link extensions with great. Both of these using callout extensions, and then the Goddard School here is using an ad. So this is kind of cool. You can see that Goddard, if they wanted to, would show up in the 4-pack, show up in the maps, show up in the maps organically, which is interesting. I usually don't see that redundancy. Usually if there's one, then there's not the other. The issue that Goddard's going to run into is they have horrible reviews. So, I mean, if you're like this looks good, but visually, if you're in that 4-star range, I don't know if I'd run around promoting this listing until I improved that. So strong recommendation there. Let's look for digital marketer Boston. Interesting that the job pack would come up. How about we say digital marketing agency? Yeah. Now, this is what I'd expect to see from an agency. They're clearly using some more of the extensions, location extension here, which is really helpful, especially if you're trying to drive local traffic. This is what I was talking about. You can see the 80K group shows up in the top pack, shows up in the maps. Again, I'd go build out some more reviews before I'd start driving too much traffic there. And they're not showing up organically for me, but that's okay. It's a tough phrase to show up organically for. But I think I really like the anatomy of their ad. We will not source your work. So playing a little bit on fear there, which isn't necessarily the best first approach, but they probably know their business a whole lot better than I do. The Conrad team here is going more after branding. Great experience matters. There's not much of a distinct call to action here. So that's one point of criticism I'd have is, say something like, evaluation, action plan, strategy meeting, like put something in front of somebody that makes them want to take action. This extension here, not just code monkeys. These guys are funny. I sort of like their approach to things that they're doing. But you can see why the ad makes such a difference and what an impact it has on the user's perspective. And if you're not spending time, effort, and energy investing in your ad copy, then I think you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. A couple of the things you can do. So I like espionage.com. And I pay for this, but they have some free versions. And using this as an example, let's see what Espionage gives us. Let's remove the geotag, move my face. So we can start to see who's bidding on this phrase, which is really helpful. What landing pages they're using, which is equally helpful. But then here's their ad copy. So number one digital marketing agency, there's that numeric value that stops people. And then you have a monetary value inserted, which starts to get compelling. I'd be careful with this. A $500 digital marketing agency, that might really appeal to a small business, but I look at that and I'm like, well, what could you possibly do for $500? That might repel a more sophisticated buyer who's looking for a little bit more. So don't think that cheap is always best. It's not. And as a matter of fact, it rarely works that way unless you're in a heavily commoditized industry. Here's a DFW, digital marketing agency, drive more sales. There's a kind of a good CTA. But again, we're not getting specific enough with the CTAs. I want to see if I can find somebody that does that well. And it might just be that we're not seeing the full ad. But it's kind of cool that Espionage pulls this together. So what I recommend doing in any industry is go figure out what your competitors are doing and steal what looks to be working. You can see who's doing what and roughly what their budget is. And these budgets are way off, by the way. And I know that because I pipe my clients through this and just kind of see what Google's showing. But you can see their ads. And, we have 99 results here. I'm not seeing anything that I would say. Isn't that funny? There's digital marketing agencies, and I'm just not seeing any ads jump out at me that are stellar. Kind of like this: quit wasting time and money. Don't wait, call. So there's some really distinct calls to action. Are you ready to grow? ROI driven. That's really good. Digital marketing for growth. Get back to selling. And then they have, clearly proprietary. So this is a really good note here is they're letting you know, hey, there's something specific to us that other people don't have. And I don't necessarily know what that is, but it makes it interesting enough for me to wonder, whether or not I should be engaging with these folks and jumping on their page. This is where they're driving their traffic. That's not horrible. Schedule an exploratory call. That's a nice call to action. See, now they lost me a little bit here. And this video is not supposed to be about landing page experience, but I just clicked through for the offer, and then they threw another offer in front of me, which is in an interstitial. And then I've got to close that offer. I've got this chatbot firing here. I'm going to fill out this form, or do I choose a date and time? That's really weird. So this is, I think, poorly structured. This could be done a little bit better. Not to beat up on WebITMD, forgive me. But anyway, spend some time investing in your ads. Understand what it takes to make a quality ad, and then test your ads against each other. Never stop split testing your ads. We always have a split testing schedule running for every single client. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or ideas or comments, hit me in the comments. Give me a little thumbs up if you like me. Subscribe, hit the bell if you want to get notifications when we go live. I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers so we can actually go live. And if you want a free action plan, head over to my website, solate.com. Grateful to you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.